Welcome to Spiritual Geography. I'm Joni Miller. My dog Cleo loved to walk. Her favorite walk was a 25-minute loop around the neighborhood. We'd go by numerous trees and listen to birds, and we would see the occasional scampering chipmunk or squirrel that she mostly just ignored. After my brother died in 2002, I started noticing black feathers on our walks. Some of the books I read about after-death communication talked about spirit using feathers and other things like coins on the ground to say hello and remind us of our ongoing connection. I was skeptical, but I didn't think there was any harm in giving this feather theory the benefit of the doubt. So when I'd see a black feather, I'd think of my brother and say hello. I didn't really believe that my deceased brother was somehow placing feathers in my path, but acknowledging him when I saw a black feather became a ritual that helped me process my grief. Then my brother's daughter died 3 years after he did. As the shock receded and my normal life took over, I said out loud, well, if the black feathers were real, I'll need a different color of feather to indicate my niece. Soon after that, on one of my walks with Cleo, I saw a large black feather parallel to a smaller white feather on the sidewalk. I stopped for a moment and said, "Interesting, but it doesn't mean anything since we're standing under a tree. Feathers fall from birds, and birds congregate in trees." So Cleo and I kept walking. We got to the end of the sidewalk and turned right to go over a grassy stretch that leads to another sidewalk. I pulled up short when I saw what was in the grass. A large black feather and a smaller white feather were sticking up perpendicular to the ground, side by side. I stopped in my tracks. I sensed my brother around me laughing and felt him say something like, "Now do you believe it's a sign from us?" And yeah, I did in that moment. My skepticism was slowly receding, but we were still walking around trees and birds, and feathers are bound to fall. Sometimes a feather is just a feather. Then my sweet little Cleo pup died in 2009. I stopped walking for a while. The first time I did Cleo's walk all the way around the neighborhood, I wasn't thinking about feathers until we got to the grassy stretch where I had seen the two feathers sticking up out of the ground. There was nothing there. I was a little disappointed, even though I hadn't set out to look for feathers. So I said, well, for me to believe it's a feather from Cleo, the feather would have to be different than the black feather from my brother and the white feather from my niece. Still, no feathers on the rest of my walk. Until the very end. As I turned left from the sidewalk onto the walk to my house, sticking straight up in the ground was a small, fuzzy, light brown feather that matched my fluffy, biscuit-colored dog. I finally believed. But life can be overwhelming sometimes. Beginning in 2010, my elderly parents started having health challenges and required a lot of support. I was also working on my Ph.D., which included counseling internships, classes, and dissertation research. I didn't slow down enough to notice feathers. My mother died in 2012. The first time I went back to campus after her death, I stopped at the bathroom on the first floor before going upstairs. The bathroom is at a right angle to the front door, about 20 to 25 feet away, and down a narrow hallway. As I left the bathroom, there was a blue jay feather on the floor. Blue, not black, white, or tan. Blue, like the color of my mother's eyes. There's no logical explanation for that feather being that far from the door. I mean, sure, there's ways I can think of it got there, but the feather was there. And because it was there, I felt as if my mother was there saying, "Hello, I'm okay. I'm at peace, no longer in pain. I'm still with you." I don't know if those in spirit manipulate matter so that we can find feathers or pennies and remember them. Or I don't know if those in spirit somehow lead us to see certain birds or rainbows, or if they create orbs in photos or direct us to see repeating number patterns. I just don't know. Nor do I believe I need to know. When I look at someone's spiritual beliefs, I ask two questions. Does this belief help them, and can this belief hurt them or anyone else? Seeing feathers as signs from loved ones helped me process my grief, letting me feel a continuing connection to those who have passed on, and increasing my sense of love. So yeah, this belief helped me. Believing this somewhat incredible thing doesn't hurt me or anyone else, so I'm good on the second question too. When I hear someone talk about something that is outside of my understanding of the world, especially if it's something that is spiritual or religious, I go back to these two questions. Does this spiritual belief help them? Does this spiritual belief hurt them or anyone else? With curiosity, I can look for how this belief is helping them. And if there's nothing about their belief that hurts anyone else, why would I judge it? Although, I do, but using these two questions helps me come back to that place of curiosity. So I am not judging someone else. I'm stepping into their world for a moment to see their spirituality and the way that they experience it. We each only see in part. I try to have humility to acknowledge that my own limitation of sight and understanding is how I see the world. And by stepping out of that, my own sense of sight and understanding with that humility, adding in curiosity, I can have grace, give grace to myself and others so that I can see the beauty in other people's beliefs. And I can do that, and it's most especially important when I disagree with those beliefs. We don't understand the mysteries of the universe, but we can grow more love. Love for ourselves, love for others, and love for the infinite mystery that lays beyond our understanding. Thank you for tuning in.